I never believe that's going to work. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Code Therapy, I hope. Like I say, absolutely no faith in my own ability to run a live stream. You're not here to see my low esteem worries. You're here to see some functional programming in your browser with Elm, delivered very slowly by a person who has justifiable low esteem in their programming abilities, which is why I call this code therapy. It's partly because it's therapy for me, because I gradually learn not to feel so bad about my programming, and it's also hopefully therapy for you, because you won't feel so bad about your programming abilities after you've seen me. Okay, so the story so far, episode 9. We have a program written in Elm, which, if you cast your eyes to just above my head, is the functional programming language for web browsers. It's actually in the browser, so you... oh, yeah, let's have some music. Is the functional... Oops. No, that's me echoing. That's kind of interesting. All right, I'm not going to have any music this time, because I'm a bit scared by that. I don't want to have any like hideous feedback. I was playing around just before you caught me with Pulse Audio, which is where people who like fiddling around with their Linux setups go to die. Basically, if you've done something terrible, like the crime that General Zod was unclearly prosecuted for just at the beginning of Superman, and you're a Linux owner and operator, they sentence you to try and get your Pulse Audio to work correctly. And what I was trying to do was feed in my music from just over there in the magical mystery screen that you must never see into this feed. My fear is that I successfully did that and you can't hear a word I'm saying, because now I can hear my voice coming in through this speaker. I'm going to ask the chat, can you hear me? It's like having an audio conference with all your friends, isn't it? Okay, it's fine. You see what self-doubt gets you? Firewatcher can hear me, and that's all I care about. All right, so let's have a look at our code. Elm does not look like JavaScript, which is sort of the thing that it compiles into. It looks very much more like... take that down a little notch. It looks very much more like Haskell, to the point where I think it's probably a good way to get the hang of Haskell. It's been like an interesting sort of tension recently, just in the last day or so. I think Elm is just in that little tick up where more and more people are kind of interested in it, and that means that there's always a slight reverberation in the force where the Sith of the internet sort of come in. As soon as something's like vaguely popular, they correctly start pointing out the potential flaws in it. So there's a little bit of people going, well, if you're going to use Haskell, why do you use Haskell? Why do this? Why you use something different? And a few other people, actually, I saw this really interesting article, which I didn't agree with, but I find things that I don't agree with the most interesting. This is guy Carlo Peschio. It was linked off Hacker News. Let me just paste this into... This is a terrible link, but I'll put it into the chat so we know where it is later. And this is a reasonable piece of advice, which is about clever code. And you shouldn't aspire to do clever code because it becomes incomprehensible. The way I've heard this best expressed is that you must assume your future self just isn't as smart as you right now. And so try and talk down to your future self, which, speaking as someone's had a birthday yesterday, I can completely vouch that that's an accurate description of your slow decline. But what's interesting about this piece is it actually, to use as an example, picks out stuff that's kind of interesting in Haskell. Interesting ways, in this case, to do fizzbuzz, which is, if you can do fizzbuzz, basically right now you can probably earn about 180, 200 grand here in the Bay Area. it's the thing people give as an interview question, and possibly the only one. They're so desperate for people around right now. So this is a clever way of doing it into Haskell, and what Carlos is saying is that if you make something clever, then it actually makes it difficult to add or change when the criteria changes. I had this slight nightmare because, like last time, I was doing this refactoring, and I was like going, well, am I just being clever here? I don't think I am, actually. I think that one of the things I like about functional programming languages is, sure, they do kind of give you an opportunity to be clever, and I think that Haskell perhaps suffers a little bit because it's an academic language and people's job is kind of to try and experiment with extremely clever stuff. But what I like about it is if you do try and change things, even if you have to unwire the whole thing, the type checker makes it a lot easier to do that kind of refactoring. Happy birthday to you too, Diffalot. Wait, that's not how it works, is it? And that was certainly the case in the last episode, where we did a pretty profound refactoring that changed the type of... This is my contractually obligatory description of the game we're emulating. We have a little grid here. No one's listening to you, Arsona, and it's not your fault. Let me turn you off. Clementine. Clementine is my app for playing music, not like my man. So what we have here is the game. It looks a somewhat grim game, but it's good, trust me. You get shown a little blob, and then if that blob matches the last blob but one in dual 2 back, you press a button and you get a point. So one of the things that we have to store is the stream of previous blobs in their position. And we call those cards in this game. And what I did last time was actually, rather than just storing what you might imagine, which is the position out of the 9 places, and store that in a giant array, I created this rather more complicated type that says, well, either it's one of those positions or it matches from 2 previous goes. So it's the same position as 2 previous goes, but I'm flagging actually in the type, in the data structure, that this is a match. And that made a lot of things kind of easier, but it made it sort of made that a little clever. I worried a bit about that having read this. I also woke up in the middle of the night with a terrible panic, because I suddenly realized, well, so we randomly generate these cards, and 3 times out of 11, I think it is, we create a position matches back. We create one which is a winning card if you spot it. And then I realized that there was a problem here, that actually sometimes it will match anyway, right? If you're picking 1 card out of 9, then 1 every, 81 times, those 2 cards are going, no, less than that. Those 2 cards are going to match anyway. So there are going to be some situations where the position does match 2 steps back, or however many it is. But you're given a normal card. It just happens to be a normal card that matches the one 2 steps behind me. If you don't follow this, that's okay. You're just, you're just not quite inside my my low esteem head. See why I'm feeling a bit like cagey, right? So, but once again, there's always a positive side to these things, as we like to say in code therapy. And I think I've worked out how to fix that. So I'm just going to put that in now. So basically, what this means is we have to. I'm not sure if I'm using this term correctly, but there's an invariant, right? That this array, where is it in our system? This deck of cards has to ensure that it always uses position matches back when that happens, even if it's not given a position matches back to add. We only ever change stuff here. We only ever add a new card to deck using this function. So I think all this means is that it's a shame, because this was a really simple, this was one of the bits that got very simple in our previous episode. But I think what it means is that rather than just adding a new card, we have to do a little check here. And position match it, let's see. So we've actually got rid of a lot of the functionality that would check this, because we've sort of replaced it with this thing. So it feels a shame to like put it back in, but you know, it's great. Them's the break. Does this mean that we need to show card? No. So card. Right. So. All right. Well, let's just think this through a bit. So. Right now, we've just said add new card to deck, straightforwardly adds the card. And I think we might be able to just put if, it's going to be if something, then model deck equals matches back model deck. The tragedy is this is going to reintroduce the slight tweak that made me foots around with the rest of it, but I'm still fairly confident this is good refactoring. So let's say matches back. Right, matches back equal something mystical in model card obvious. If its position matches back, then we... I mean, that's funny, actually, of course, because... Well, let's make it true, just to be logically correct. And then we can... we're back. I'm sorry about that. Something goes up that takes over my CPU at some point, and I'm just gonna shut down. I thought it was yeah, my fear is it's the Twitch dashboard that does it, so I'm gonna shut that down. Okay, yep, FireWatcher, I just temporarily lost it, but actually Watch People Code, which is the site that I stream this through, seems to fix the problem, which meant that it was pretty hard for me to get back online afterwards. Okay, so let's have a look. Position matches back, it's true, and then we have do we just say new card position? Do we just say position in this? guess there's only one way to find out. Let's just see if it complains. No, that works. Okay. So we get the position, and then we want to check n minus one, n back minus one model. N minus one. List drop. Model deck. List add. Yeah, it's just like a little knot of logic that I don't think we can simplify. On my back, Fire Watcher, my constant guardian. So this is going to return a maybe, because that's what list heads do. And then we say if just position equals, why thank you, Difflon. Feeling pretty dapper. Actually, I'm feeling a little caked up. a lot of mango cake yesterday for breakfast. Does it sound quiet? Yeah. Well, you're just feeling quiet, Fire Watcher, because you're actually the most talkative person in the stream. Not a critique. Actually, I've really enjoyed your contributions. So, just position. Bear in mind, Fire Watcher, there's a slight lag. So when you say no, yes, I'm going, oh, it's like that two Ronnie's mastermind sketch where they're always answering the question before that. Yeah, I've been a bit quiet today. I'm in I have a lot of things where I'm supposed to be, I'm in a sort of management role. So there's a lot of times where I have to sort of be outgoing. Actually, the most challenging part of my week is today, where I have to do announcements to the whole of the staff of EFF, and they're lovely people, and most of our staff announcements are about like somebody's birthday, or like they're introducing a new dog whose owner is coming to work with us. But I get very nervous about announcing what my team has done, because I kind of want to present them in the best possible light. And I get very like, oh my God, am I going to just am I really going to do what they're doing justice? So it was great actually today. One of my co-workers, Eva Galperin, who is an amazing sort of malware analyst with a heavy side order of Snark. Here's her personal Twitter, which I totally recommend that you visit if you like that kind of Infosec Snark. Anyway, she's doing an internal sort of brown bag lunch of the project she's been working on for the last 6 months or so, and it's super awesome. You will get to see it in another month, I think, at Blackhat. But in the meantime, I'm super excited to see it internally. Okay. Position if just position equals blah blah blah, then true, false. I don't really know how to test this. This is the first time that I've really come up with some logic that in another programming language I would run a test on. So model has this type number. Well, that's not true. Why do you think that? Ah. Okay, you're very confused about model here. Why are you confused? Or is add new card to deck called? I don't think we've changed its definition here. Oh, look, I've said model -1 when I meant model n -1. Can you see what I'm saying to you? Here we go. So this is the first time I've, like I say, I've really come up with something. I'm going, if I really shook out how that is supposed to work. Go back. You see, now I have to actually do the game. Is that right? I suppose I could go back in the stream and have a look. You actually can do that on the YouTube stream. Maybe that's the way to do it. Well, I guess one of the ways we could do it is keep this running for a bit. Well, look, either we can write a test for this or we can't. And I haven't looked at Elm test suites. I kind of want to keep this one a bit short because I've got to get up early tomorrow. So, but I don't want to not test it. I guess. The poor man's test of this would, I think the trickiest part of this is whether this is really mapping. I wonder if we can just try in this. Paste it in, see what happens. Cool. This doesn't really have much in the way of a debugger either, but I can probably just mangle this a little bit. Trash this. I was thinking that, but the REPL, I wasn't sure about which bits I'd have to like recreate in the REPL. I don't know if that's how you pronounce REPL, but I like it. So I was thinking something along the lines of string model. It's not got VI key bindings. Fair enough. World's most boring game of dual and back. So position matches back. So what we just want to make sure is that there's never a situation where we see, is that going to be so incredibly unlikely that we're never going to see it? I think good so far. So let's put in a debug. When the horrible condition triggers. Still not getting the hang of elms. Multiple streaming things to look at. Never triggers. It's not 1 and 9 though, is it? Oh yeah, it is. You're right. You're right. Well, I'm not seeing a bad match, but I'm also not seeing one of its... No, it'll be 1 in 11. 1 in 11. There you go. So there was one. All right. Can't stop it. Debugger, does that stop it? Oh, that's got another one. Well, hard to tell. I guess. Yeah, have a look at the tutorial. I like the tutorial diff a lot. Things are slightly in a bit of flux with with Elm at the moment. Well, they're kind of not, but the documentation is just taking a while to catch up with a fairly major change. Okay. And keep following me, he says, desperately. I'll give like free, what coins should I have in my Twitch channel? What fake currency should I have? Like lambda coin or something. Okay. I'm on Metafilter there. All right, I'm going to say that's okay. Very, very poor testing, but does it for me. I think if we will make a mental note to remember that might be a bit buggy. And you know what? I'll next time I'll really throw myself into writing a test. Actually, let's do that. Let's put that in as a thing we can do. Future projects, get Elm testing working, particularly on add, whatever it's called, add card, tricky logic. Yeah, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. You should just tune into the next episode. We'll do it there. I'm just feeling guilt. So one of the people that really turned me onto functional programming language is Brian O'Sullivan, and he was one of the first. He was the guy who wrote Real World Haskell. He was one of the first sort of advocates for using Haskell in practical situations. He works at Facebook now and did a lot to kind of clear up, I think, their tools. And I remember having a discussion with him because he really didn't see the benefits of test-driven development, and kind of saw it as a bit of a human weakness amongst people who hadn't got the Haskell gospel. And it was interesting to see when I got more into it what he meant. His line was always that, you know, a lot of type checking gets rid of some of the stuff that you end up writing these very fragile tests for. But the other one he really talked about a lot is QuickCheck. And QuickCheck, like many Haskell things, is like you just go in and go, what? My brain melting out of my ears. But what QuickCheck does is it's sort of, the way I crammed it into my head is it's sort of like fuzzing for algorithms, because your program, you've defined the types very, Richard Gimli, because you define the types very precisely, you can create tests that just create random things that fit that type, and then just hammer your algorithm to see if there are any edge cases, and that's what he thought of as tests. And his point was that would be very hard to do in any other environment, but it's really good for uncovering edge cases that you might not realize, which is sort of the purpose of it, to his mind, what tests should be. And that's not what I saw tests as being. Tests for me are like, you create these things to sort of guide your design a little bit. So I understood the cultural war that they were in. All right. Well, actually, I'm thinking I'm gonna wrap it up. Actually, there's one little thing. So let's commit this. Yep, that looks good. This thing goes orange when you're kind of breaking the limits of the standard Git entry. It's not the world's best commit, but it'll do. Push. Turn your eyes to the hills. This is hacking. There. Wow, you've been reading my blog, Firewatcher. You know, so I don't know whether I said in my blog, for those of you who don't stalk me, this is my blog, Oblomovka, and I found this really weird thing a few weeks ago when examining my, a few months ago now, look at that, it's 3 or 4 months ago. I number crunched the length of the subject lines of my emails. This sounds so much more interesting in a blog entry now. I sound slightly ridiculous, but from like 1990 or so, I scanned them, and there's this general increase going on. Like, my subject lines are getting bigger over time, over the last decade. 2 decades even. And I actually emailed an academic about this, and he ran it on his email corpus and went, yes, this looks like a trend in my email corpus, and then give me some ideas to find out, to test it a bit more. And then I got very excited and went, oh my god, maybe I can write an academic paper. And then work intruded. So, this is actually a scan of Enron's emails. There's a massive email data set that came out of discovery from Enron's prosecution. This is, where is it? This is my email. It's a weird spike there as well, but I think that's because I switched from one email host to another. So if you have any ideas as to why email subject lines have been getting longer, give me an email at danny@spesh.com, and I'll test them on these corpuses for you. Okay. I think I'm going to end there. It's like been kind of almost an hour. Thank you very much for joining us. It wasn't super interesting. We just put in a little thing, but we have some good ideas for the next one. And I know, Hills, I'm sorry, I could record a sample of me typing and then I could send it to you. Or if you want a private session, the Hills, I do take private payment, and I'll just sit there and click my keyboard and wave my beard at you. Okay, I think that's going to be it. See you next time, and thanks, and do follow. And yeah, Richard, Kibitsu, I actually tried to check that, and there's been some spiky changes in screen resolution. People switched really quickly from 1024 to another one, so it might be testable. I think 20 lambdacoins will do nicely. Okay, I'm off. Think on the email problem, and think maybe go and explore Elm testing. This is your homework, or at least it's my homework. And I'll speak to you next time on Code Therapy. Bye. Bye, everyone. I can never end.